Coming up, how to get a good foundation for a Malcolm Young style tone and how to avoid some of the pitfalls many guitar players fall into when attempting AC/DC songs. Of the two guitarists in AC/DC, the one that gets the most credit is Angus Young, with his schoolboy outfit and his Gibson SG. Even non-guitar players recognize who this is sometimes. In this video, I want to talk about the other guitar player in AC/DC, the driving force of the band, Angus's older brother, the late Malcolm Young. Malcolm's most famous rig is extremely simplistic. Gretsch, Marshall Plexi, greenbacks. That's it. No pedals, no radio unit, nothing that doesn't need to be there. He even removed the middle and neck pickups of his Gretsch Jet Firebird to keep it simple. So for this, we don't actually need that big a rig. You don't have to have a Gretsch to sound like Malcolm, but it does help to have something with a humbucker pickup at the bridge, preferably something Filtertron style. I do have a Gretsch, however, and it's mainly for the cosmetic side of things. This is the G5222 Electromatic Double Jet. I got this one on loan from my friends at 𝗨𝗏𝗪. 𝗨𝗏𝗪 is the biggest music store in Austria, and I recommend that you stop by there if you're ever in Vienna. Thank you, 𝗨𝗏𝗪, for lending me this for the video. The G522 series is not solid. It's a chambered body, which is mahogany, and it's got a maple top. The neck is also mahogany. It's got a thin U-shape with a 12-inch radius. It's got a laurel fingerboard and pickups that Gretsch call the Broadtron, which are quite PAF-like in tone, not entirely Filtertron pickups, but they look the part. It kind of sounds like an angry Telecaster. Yes, I know I said that Malcolm Young didn't use pedals, but I doubt many of us have the luxury of absolutely slamming a Plexi-style Marshall at home. So, doing the job of a cranked JTM 45 is this, the 45 caliber from Rockett. This pedal was actually built to recreate the Malcolm Young tone, and it is basically a Marshall JTM 45 in a box. But it's an extremely good one that I've been having a lot of fun with. I've even recently bought a used Marshall Bluesbreaker amp, and I haven't actually plugged that in since I got this pedal. As the 45 caliber's doing most of the tone shaping and heavy lifting of the sounds, I'm using the Fender Deluxe Reverb as a pedal platform. I'm hearing that through some Celestine greenbacks and a Marshall cab, and you're hearing it through the Captor X from 2 Notes. That's running some IRs, some impulse responses from Solo Dallas. And these impulse responses are very AC/DC Malcolm Young influenced, kind of unofficial tones of AC/DC. They're really good. And that's it. Guitar, pedal, amp, speakers, ears. Now, it is important to have gear that is appropriate, but what's more important is how you use that gear. So, here are my 5 steps on how to use this rig to get a Malcolm Young tone. This guitar, being a Gretsch, is a little bit quirky, a little bit odd when compared to like a Gibson or a Fender. So I've got a volume for the neck and a volume for the bridge pickup, a master tone and a master volume over here, and a 3-way pickup selector. First thing, stick it on the bridge because I'm going to pretend that that neck pickup is not even there. Then I'm maxing the volume on here, maxing the tone. But here comes the secret sauce. On this guitar, take the master volume down to about 6 or 7. If you don't have a master volume, then take your bridge pickup volume down to about 6 or 7. That'll give you a little bit of a clearer tone going into the pedal. Here is the sound with the guitar on 10, and I'll compare it to the sound on 6 or 7 so you can hear the difference. Here it is on 10. Turning it down to about 6, 7-ish. Rolling that volume off to about 6 or 7 gives us a slightly more Filtertron-y sound rather than a humbucker sound, because these pickups are very PAF style rather than Filtertron. If you're using something like an SG or a Les Paul, then back off that volume a little bit. If you're using something like a Strat, which I suppose you could use, don't back off the volume. You might need that as much push as you can get going into the pedal. I'm boosting the bass and the treble of the J Rockett 45 caliber because I'm using 10 to 46 gauge strings and Malcom Young used 12 to 56. They're thicker strings, they have more sustain, and they're more bassy, more bottom end. So I'm compensating for that by boosting the bass on the pedal and then also boosting the treble on the pedal to give us a bit more bite, a bit more clarity back. I think the most important part of the Malcom Young tone signal is not to give too much gain. Now you notice the gain here is on just over a quarter. So if I turn it off and give you some playing, you'll hear the difference between the pedal and the amp. Please don't shout at your screen too much. That is enough gain for a Malcom Young tone. Angus Young takes over the slightly more crunchy role in those riffs. And if you're playing the Malcom role, you definitely want to not get in the way of the lead guitar player. So back off the gain and have a just over the edge of breakup tone. Now this is one of the pitfalls I mentioned earlier in the video. Far too many players push the gain too hard when playing Malcom Young and Angus Young parts. Malcolm's tone was almost clean-ish, but raunchy, bitey, jagged. It is an over-the-top rock because people think that it's hard rock, so it needs to have a lot of gain. It doesn't. Back off the gain, and you'll benefit, I promise. To show what I mean, I'll play something in the style of 𝗓𝗡𝗅𝗓𝗓 with the gain where I've set it, and then increase the gain to where I think most people would set it, and show the difference and how it sounds to me wrong. So here's my gain setting. And then I think most people would have the gain at least there and compensate with the volume. So that's too much gain, too saturated, and therefore overtake what the Angus part is doing. So I love the way that Malcom sits underneath Angus's more crunchy guitar. It's genius. The reason it may sound like a lot of gain to some people is because of the way Malcom plays and the way he uses his right hand. He uses a Fender heavy gauge pick. I'm using a Jim Dunlop Max Grip 1mm, and just by adjusting my dynamics of my right hand, I can change the tone. So I'm going to play two things. The first thing is going to be something that's fairly normal Malcom rhythm. It's going to be one of the AC/DC riffs. Then I'll play something else, which I won't change any of the settings, but the way that I play will change the sound of the tone. The final piece of the puzzle is to be as tight as possible with the rhythm section. One of the reasons that Malcom Young used a guitar cable rather than a wireless unit is because you rarely found him anywhere else than right next to the drummer. When he was doing the backing vocals, he stepped forward to the mic and sang, but then when he finished his singing bit, he'd be right next to that drum rise. And if you look at any footage or any photos, you'll see him stood there right next to the cymbals, which must have blown his ears. But he's there, so he's locked in with the bass player and the drummer, and therefore being tight as heck. If you want to get that AC/DC sound, you can even go as far as buying a vintage amp. But if you don't play in time and locked in, you're not going to sound anything like Malcom Young. And that's basically it. It's a lot harder than it sounds because you've got to stay locked in and you've got to stay cleaner than you want to maybe, and a lot of that tone is coming from your right hand and your playing. Let Angus, whoever's doing Angus, let him do all the sort of fun parts. You're doing the fun of actually being in time and providing a solid backbone for the rest of the band. To talk about the gear quickly, I absolutely don't think you need a Gretsch guitar, but it does feel cool to have one. And I'm so pleased that Klangfarbe sent me this to use because it wouldn't feel right not having this guitar. And at 500 euros, a quick review of the guitar is that it's absolutely fantastic for the price. It's an alternative to something like an Epiphone. And if you're looking for something that delivers rock and roll, but has a slightly different quirky side to it. Get one of the G5-222s, also because it's fun to say a G5-222. It did take me a while to get used to these controls, but that's a Gretsch thing and an Andy thing rather than a problem. So although it's not entirely authentic, it isn't going to set you back, what, the $2,500–3,500 that a Malcom Young signature will. This will do the job plenty. Also, I cannot say enough pleasant, polite things about the 45 caliber from Rockett. Now, Face Distribution sent me this pedal and said, can you do something with it in a video? So this is what I've done. And I'm so glad that I did choose this pedal, because I have other plexi pedals. I have some really cheap ones, some Joyos and some Moores, and some K-lines, I think it is. But this one does kind of nail that low gain, and I'm going to do another video with it where we actually go into the higher gain territory, and I'll play it with the Strat, because it does Hendrix stuff as well. It also does Pete Townshend and the Blues Breakers, of course. So I think this pedal might actually be replacing my Blues Breaker amp, because that thing is dang heavy, and this isn't. The rest of the tone is, of course, the Fender Deluxe Reverb, but any amp that you use should be fairly clean, so don't put it crunchy, let the pedal do most of the crunching. And the speaker, I guess, use the EQ to make sure that the speaker isn't sounding too bright. And then Bob's your mother's brother. You've made it to the end of the video, which means you're in the end of the video club. Congratulations. If you're new here, you probably don't know what this is, but if you're not new, then welcome back. It's nice to have you. To prove that you are a member of this prestigious elite, when you leave a comment on this video, because I really want you to tell me what you think of the video, when you leave that comment, please include the phrase 45 caliber, and that'll let me know that you watched this part of the video and you made it all the way to the end. Congratulations. That just leaves me to say thank you to the people that made this video possible: Face Distribution, Rockett, Gretsch, and Klangfarbe, and you, of course. I absolutely adore AC/DC and Malcom Young, and I've had a ball making this video. I hope to see you soon in one of those, or at some point in the future. Bye bye!